Reverend Al Sharpton received a call from Bill Clinton, who's doing damage control yesterday, Friday. He went on your program. It was a pretty civil exchange. How angry you are at Baptist?
I think a lot of us were angry at the assertion that it was a fairy tale campaign.
Beginning with the former president who took on Obama's statements about the war in Iraq.
You said in 2004 you didn't know how you would have voted on the resolution. You said in 2004 there was no difference between you and George Bush on the war, and you took that speech you're now running on off your website in 2004, and there's no difference in your voting record and Hillary's ever since. Give me a break. This whole thing is the biggest fairy tale I've ever seen.
Now, Representative Jim Clyburn, the senior black congressman in South Carolina, says we have to be very, very careful about how we speak about that era. He's talking about civil rights. It's one thing to run a campaign and be respectful of everyone's motives and actions. It's another thing to denigrate those. That bothered me a great deal. He's talking in this case about Hillary, saying that President Lyndon Baines Johnson was the man who really got civil rights going, not Martin Luther King.
And I think that is true. I agree with Congressman Clyburn, who's been neutral as I have in this race. And I've said to all the candidates that they have to be careful how they desecrate civil rights era, civil rights activism and leadership, who sacrificed a lot. And to trivialize that into some partisan primary stuff, I think is belittling to all of us that need that movement then and need it now.
Assertion that he peddles false hopes, saying hope has driven great American accomplishments such as the civil rights movement.
Dr. King standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. You know, this dream thing, it's a false hope. We can't expect equality. False hopes.
Clinton told Fox this in response.
Dr. King's dream began to be realized when President Lyndon Johnson passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, when he was able to get through Congress something that President Kennedy was hopeful to do, President before had not even tried.
Today, Senator Obama used President John F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to criticize me. And basically compared himself to two of our greatest heroes, saying, well, they gave great speeches. President Kennedy was in the Congress for 14 years. He was a war hero. He was a man of great accomplishments and readiness to be president.
Do you, in your heart of hearts, think that Hillary Clinton is playing the race card in this campaign against Barack Obama?
I know that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are good and decent people, and they have led for years on the issue of race. I have great respect for them. I think we need to be troubled by some of the statements that their surrogates have made, but I think the important thing is to move beyond and to talk about the issues that are important to the American people, to recognize that it's not been the Obama campaign in the least that's played the race card. We have quite the interest in doing the opposite. And then when the Clintons themselves have said some things that were intentionally or not widely construed as being somewhat insensitive, and then to turn and accuse the Obama campaign of playing the race card, it all really strains credulity, and I really hope
for them somehow to suggest that we're interjecting race as a consequence of a statement she made that we haven't commented on is pretty hard to figure out.
In terms of accountability, Senator Obama, Senator Clinton on Sunday told me that the Obama campaign had been pushing this storyline. And true enough, your press secretary in South Carolina, 4 pages of alleged comments made by the Clinton people about the issue of race. In hindsight, do you regret pushing this story?
Well, not only in hindsight, but going forward. I think that, as Hillary said,
Governor, let me ask you about an interview you gave with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette editorial where you raised some questions about Barack Obama's viability with voters in your state. You said, quote, "You've got some conservatives here, and I think there are some whites who are probably not ready to vote for an African-American candidate." Do you feel like maybe you were quoted out of context? Did you misspeak? Or do you mean that white people won't vote for Barack Obama? Because that certainly wasn't the case in Virginia or Maryland.
No, of course not. And you have to look at the entire interview. First of all, I was in an editorial board interview talking about my education budget and our Pennsylvania economic stimulus program. I was asked to sort of, on the way out the door, to handicap the Pennsylvania race. And I gave all of the assets and all the liabilities I thought of all candidates. And there's no question, I ran against a very attractive, charismatic African-American for re-election as governor, Nora, you know, Lynn Swan, the TV sportscaster. And there's no question that there are some Pennsylvanians, just like there are people all over the country, who aren't ready to vote an executive position for an African-American. Smaller and smaller every year. Just like there are some people, some men, who don't want to see a woman as commander-in-chief of the United States military.
Part of the reason that John Lewis appeared to, well, not appeared to, he did. He switched his position today as a superdelegate from Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama, and his line is, look, I'm just following the will of the people.
Let's go inside the numbers. Here they are. It was a landslide for Barack Obama among black voters. In fact, he took 90% of those who cast their ballots.
Welcome back. Can Barack Obama regain his momentum in the Magnolia State? He's got 2 campaign stops in Mississippi today, where 33 delegates are up for grabs during the primary there tomorrow. The key for Obama? African Americans, who make up a bigger percentage of voters in Mississippi than in any other state, 36%. Among Democrats, it's even bigger. Blacks constitute more than half of the party electorate.
Hey, this is an interesting statement.
Yeah, this was just handed to me, and it's a statement by Clinton supporter Geraldine Ferraro. We want to get your reaction to this. I don't know if you've heard about this, Susan. Quote, "If Obama was a white man, he would not be in this position," Ferraro told the Daily Breeze. "And if he was a woman of any color, he would not be in this position. He happens to be very lucky to be who he is, and the country is caught up in the concept."
You know, Mika, that's a really outrageous and offensive comment. It is the sort of comment that we have heard repeatedly, I'm afraid, from some of the Clinton surrogates. It is a far worse comment than what Samantha Power said, and for which Senator Obama accepted her resignation. I think if Senator Clinton is serious about putting an end to statements that have racial implications, that diminish Barack Obama because he is an African-American man, then she ought to really repudiate this comment.
All right. Well, I think you can't overlook the African-American vote. 70% of the registered Democrats in this state are African-American. I had a chance to speak with the Obama campaign yesterday about this, and they said, you know, clearly that is in their favor.
Germans call Schadenfreude, joy through others' tragedy. Let's talk about a far more Quisling situation. It's the complications of this race. Again today, we faced another case of a staffer, supporter, superdelegate, whatever, speaking out in a way that the candidate has had to distance themselves from. Here on Saturday, Geraldine Ferraro, who of course was the Democratic nominee for vice president back in '84, told a local paper in California, quote, "If Obama was a white man, he would not be in this position. And if he was a woman, he would not be in this position. He happens to be very lucky to be who he is, and the country's caught up in the concept." So what's this? And then Senator Clinton separating ourselves a bit, but not enough to avoid the tackle, as they say in football. Not enough separation to avoid the tackle, said, "I do not agree with it. That is regrettable that any of our supporters on both sides, because blah, 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 blah." You know, she really didn't deny it. Then, of course, we've got the other side now jumping, saying, here's what Senator Obama told a Pennsylvania newspaper about Ferraro's comments. Quote, "I don't think Geraldine Ferraro's comments have any place in our politics or in the Democratic Party. They're divisive. I think anybody who understands the history of this country knows they are patently absurd, and I would expect that the same way those comments don't have a place in my campaign, they shouldn't have a place in Senator Clinton's campaign." In other words, Stop complaining about my people if you can't clean up your guys.
Well, I mean, she's so over the top, I don't even know where to begin with this. It's not her.
Geraldine Ferraro.
Geraldine Ferraro's comments are so over the top, and it's at a time, you know, when we're looking and we're seeing that the Clinton campaign, I think, personally, is trying to woo back African-American voters in Mississippi tonight, and she goes out and she makes this statement, and I can tell you every African-American in the state of Mississippi that reads about this or hears about it is going to be overwhelmingly turned off, and if one of them had been inclined to maybe change their vote from Obama to Senator Clinton, that the black vote is gone for good.
For playing the race card.
I personally think that this is the last time that the Obama campaign is going to be able to play this type of a race card, because I think that's what it is.
You're saying they're playing the race card.
Absolutely. And I tell you, if anybody was going to, they should apologize for me for calling me a racist.
I spoke to Ferraro today as well, and she was just as forceful, telling me, quote, "I'm not a racist. I will not apologize. What I said is the truth. It's a fact."
Quoting it in full, "Dear Hillary, I am stepping down from your finance committee so I can speak for myself, and you can continue to speak for yourself about what is at stake in this campaign. The Obama campaign is attacking me to hurt you. I won't let that happen. Thank you for everything you have done and continue to do to make this a better world for my children and grandchildren. You have my deep admiration and respect. Jerry."